Thank you for joining today's online travel presentation, where we discuss the joys of rail and river cruising in Europe for your next group. My name is Lynn, Vacation by Rail's head of marketing, and I'm pleased to be your moderator for this online travel presentation. Shortly, you will meet Jolie Freeman, Vacations by Rail's business development manager and group specialist, and your presenter today. Before we begin, I just want to take care of a few bits of housekeeping. First, we will hold all questions until the end. If you have questions during the presentation, please type them in the comment box in the GoToWebinar toolbar, and we will cover them at the end of the webinar. And second, we'd like to learn a little bit about you and your travel planning. So during the presentation, you're going to see 3 polling questions, and we encourage you to participate. Lastly, today's webinar will be recorded and available after the presentation for future playback. So let's get started. As I mentioned, I'm Lynn, and I'm pleased to introduce Jolie Freeman, Vacation by Rail's Business Development Manager and Group Specialist.
Thanks, Lynn. This is Jolie. I'm very happy to introduce myself, and I'm grateful to you for taking the time to learn more about Vacations by Rail, our rail and river cruise tours, and the joy of group travel with us. As Lynn mentioned, I'm the Business Development Manager, and I'm also a group specialist. And my goal is to partner with you throughout the group travel process, from tour exploration to marketing, reservations, departure, and then beyond. So thanks again for choosing to spend time with both of us today.
Great, so it's time for our first polling question. So I'm gonna go ahead and launch that. And it is, has your group taken a river cruise? So we'll keep this open for about 30 seconds to give everyone a chance to participate. All right, great. It looks like everyone has had a chance to share their views. And Jolie, 50% of today's attendees has taken a group on a river cruise and 50% have not. So it's a great variety of answers, which is fine, because whether you have or have not, we're going to introduce rail and river cruising for groups with a handful of unique itineraries on the Danube and Rhine rivers. So perhaps you've helped clients experience a Vacations by Rail vacation, or you've been on one of our tours yourself, or maybe you're new to Vacations by Rail and interested in learning more. So there are numerous reasons to choose Vacations by Rail. We are North America's leading rail vacations company, offering the largest selection of independent rail vacations, escorted rail tours, rail and cruise combination itineraries, and luxury rail journeys. So there are extensive choices from rail vacation experts. We are the trusted authority on rail, and we're also a member of the National Tour Association and American Bus Association. We're also a great rail journeys company, which means we're backed by more than 45 years of experience in the specialty of global rail tours. And Vacations by Rail delivers unmatched vacations and first-class service to destinations around the globe. Extensive options include travel aboard the world's iconic trains in a variety of travel styles, from escorted tours and independent trips to luxury rail travel and rail cruise combinations. So traveling with Vacations by Rail offers groups a distinctive and memorable experience with outstanding rail components ranging from overnight trains to scenic heritage railways, comfortable accommodations centrally located within national parks or in the heart of large cities, comprehensive sightseeing with one-of-a-kind experiences, insider experiences and local expertise, and exceptional customer service from agents who specialize in rail and group travel. So rail travel and river cruising are a perfect pair. Both offer unique ways to see and experience a new country, and a rail and river cruise tour is part escorted rail tour and part river cruise, which means you get the best of both worlds. You can take it, rail and river cruises can take you places that are not accessible by motor coach or car and offer a new perspective on travel. A rail and river cruise tour offers a mix of iconic and scenic, unique rail travel through fantastic destinations. This type of travel creates a relaxed travel experience where you leave the navigation and driving to someone else. And a rail and river cruise tour, the vessel and the train are themselves a very significant part of the vacation experience. You're not stopping for meals, you're not stopping for accommodations. You're touring on your own. You're on your own in for excursions on off the ship, but you're not touring on your own because everything is already packaged for you. So it's also excellent way to meet new friends and strengthen those relationships of the group that you're traveling with. So make new friends along the way. So I'm going to turn this over to Jolie, who's going to tell you all about rail and river cruises for groups.
Thanks so much, Lynn. I am excited to share this information with you because Vacation by rail and river cruise vacations work especially well for groups. Groups are often seeking something new, something different, and these packages are certainly unique. They offer a fresh option in the world of group travel. A lot of groups prefer a more inclusive travel experience where their hotel accommodations, numerous meals, sightseeing, transportation, group escorts, and everything are packaged into one, and that's what you get on a rail and river cruise itinerary. Group travel planners like to bring high quality experiences and accommodations to their group, to their travelers. On board each river cruise, you're traveling on a five-star luxury river vessel with entertainment, gourmet cuisine, shore excursions, as well as your sightseeing included. Group travel planners and travelers benefit in immeasurable ways from a travel experience like this. For travel planners, the benefits extend beyond the tour and travel itself. Vacations by Rail offers group held space for free on select cruises and departure dates. And I also wanted to mention that group space can also be held for free for groups on our escorted tours as well, not just the itineraries that we'll be discussing today. The benefit to that is it allows you time to promote the tour, gather your reservations, grow interest in the trip, and get the word out while that space is tucked away and held for your group. We do provide a complimentary travel benefit. For travel industry professionals, there's a commission, and we do provide free marketing assistance to help you promote the tour and maximize the opportunity to utilize all of the held space well in advance of the departure. So let's take a look at Europe's scenic waterways. Vacations by Rail has numerous rail and river cruise tours with options throughout Europe. Today, we're going to focus on two rivers. We'll focus on two itineraries on the Danube River, and we'll focus on one itinerary, including the Rhine River. Our Rhine River cruise takes travelers from Basel in Switzerland to Amsterdam. And our Danube River cruise travels from Budapest, Hungary to Germany, passing through a number of countries and cities along the way. Historically, the rivers of Europe facilitated the transportation of goods and services to people living inland, and the rivers provided a route for the exportation of goods to other countries. So the river was a very active and busy place. Modern river cruising is a great way to see towns that are both large and small, and to learn about the ways the rivers helped shape history and culture of those towns. In the past, touring inland was only possible by motor coach, but river cruising has really expanded travel options in these countries. So during the presentation, what I'd like to do is provide a high-level overview of the itineraries and their inclusions. Importantly, though, I'd like to just give you an idea of why these itineraries work well for groups, what might make them appealing to your group in particular, and how they operate and what's included. So let's get started. As much as it's possible in a webinar, I'd like to try and bring you the joy of this travel experience and bring it to life for you. So we'll begin with an exploration of the Glacier Express and Danube cruise. We're going to be traveling through the mountainous landscapes of Switzerland aboard the world-famous Glacier Express, and then we'll board a luxurious cruise to sail along the Danube River. So imagine yourself on the shores of Lake Geneva in Switzerland, then taking a ride on one of the world's most scenic rail lines. before sailing the waters of the Danube. That's exactly what you and your travelers can experience on this 13-day vacation, this rail and river cruise called the Glacier Express and Danube Cruise. The tour begins with travel on Europe's Eurostar as well as local trains from London to Vevey, Switzerland. You'll see that reflected on the left portion of the map. In the event that your group isn't interested in beginning the tour in London, they can begin by train from Paris instead. They join the touring group by train from Paris and then travel to Vevey, Switzerland. For 2 nights in Switzerland, then travel by rail to Chur, Switzerland for 1 night. Travel by rail to Innsbruck, Austria for 2 nights with touring along the way, and then travel by rail to Budapest, which is the port of embarkation for the vessel. So that's where we'll join the ship and begin the river cruise up the Danube to Passau. Travelers will then have the option at the conclusion of the tour to fly home from either Munich or to continue their journey by rail to London, where they can fly home. I've shown on the slide 2022 travel months and price from. I did want to note, and it's consistent across the entire presentation. So for all of these, you'll see 2022 months of travel and rates. But we did just load all of the 2023 dates as well as rates and itineraries on our website. So if you'd like to learn more, please visit us at vacationsbyrail.com. Included in this package is all the rail and coach travel, Eurostar, Glacier Express, and the Zillertalbahn Railway experience, 5 nights of hotel accommodations, 7 nights on the luxury rail vessel or river cruise, a professional tour escort, local guides, as well as 28 meals. So it's a very, very inclusive package. Since rail travel is at the heart, it's the cornerstone of each Vacations by Rail tour, let's take a look at a couple of the rail inclusions. I did want to note that in this presentation, I've spent a little bit more time pulling out the rail components as well, because I just like to highlight the fact that there's such a wide variety, many different type of rail experiences, and they do certainly make these tours and these itineraries unique in the world of group travel. On day 1, if your travelers are starting from London, they'll meet their tour manager and the rest of the traveling group, board the Eurostar, and begin their travel. The Eurostar is a modern high-speed train. It travels to 13 destinations throughout Western Europe. It was founded in 1994, and interestingly, the Queen of England herself was one of the first passengers on the train. It marked the first passenger train expedition through the Channel Tunnel. Definitely one of the highlights of our tour is the rail experience, the rail time on the Glacier Express. This is Switzerland's best known train. It's affectionately referred to as the slowest express train in the world. Your group will board on day 3. They'll travel through tunnels, across bridges, and make their way to Chur, Switzerland, where they'll spend a night. The train has large panoramic windows, and that makes for the perfect opportunity to experience and take in breathtaking landscapes, including snow-capped mountains, canyons, narrow valleys, and rushing waters. I'd like to mention that rail travel really brings guests into environments that are not easily accessible by motor coach and car. I know Lynn said this before, but a rail and river cruise is a unique experience too, because you're seeing things from a couple different perspectives. When you're on the river vessel, you're traveling on a river, looking at cities from that viewpoint. When you're on a train, oftentimes it can bring you up in elevation to take in totally different sceneries and viewings of cities from a different perspective as well. So it's really kind of one of the joys of these types of vacations. So we'll spend 5 nights on a escorted land tour. Each city that we'll travel through is connected by rail, and then we'll board our ship. The land touring concludes in Budapest, and that's where we pick up the Amadeus River vessel. In the picture here is the MS Amadeus Queen. It's a great example of the Amadeus fleet. It's a sleek, elegant, and comfortable ship, and a great way to see the rivers of Europe. It's reflective of the fleet. So it's possible on their Danube cruise or their Rhine cruise, they could be sailing on a different Amadeus vessel, but the general layout is the same for these ships. We'll take a look at 2 of them today. Some information that you might find helpful. We charter these river cruise vessels exclusively. They're 5-star, and I would describe them as modern luxury. They take up to about 166 passengers and about 50 staff members. All of the ships have panorama restaurants with floor-to-ceiling windows, a bar, a spacious lounge, an outdoor terrace, and a sun deck with chairs. The ships also include a hair salon, fitness center, gift shop, and the Amadeus Club, where they can take in coffee and tea throughout the day. Dining, of course, is an important part of the cruise experience. What you're looking at right now is the deck plan. There is a restaurant on board where breakfast is available as either a well-planned continental or a hot chef-prepared meal. Lunch is served in the restaurant. Or your travelers can take in a lighter lunch in the lounge. And dinner is a waiter-served meal in the restaurant featuring locally inspired dishes that are on the menu. Wine and beer is served with dinner on board, and the wine is typical of the region through which we're passing. As I mentioned, the ship has 4 decks, 3 of which include the cabins. We'll take a look at the staterooms in a moment. You can see there's a sun deck at the top of the ship, the restaurant, and the bar. This is a great pictorial of the 3 accommodation types on the ship. We'll move from left to right. The picture on the left is a classic stateroom. This is the lower level of the ship. It includes a wide picture window to admire the passing scenery. Cabin size is 172 square feet. Middle picture is the deluxe stateroom, and that features a panoramic window that actually opens and closes to let in fresh air. The cabin size is 188 square feet. And on the right is the deluxe suite, which features an exterior walkout balcony, a comfortable corner sofa, and the cabin size is 284 square feet. Important to note is that all of the rooms, it's standard with and all to have a spacious ensuite bathroom with complimentary toiletries, individual climate control, a flat screen TV, hair dryer, tea and coffee making facilities, a safe, a direct dial phone, and then your guests' or travelers' choice of either a double or a single bed. These pictures bring it to life a little bit more. Every ship does have its own decor and personality. Here on the upper left, you can see a deluxe suite, the restaurant on your right, an indoor pool on the bottom left, and a picture of the lounge on the bottom right. So now we've taken a look at some of the rail excursions. I've given you a quick tour through the vessel itself. Let's go back to the itinerary and focus on some of the highlights and inclusions. I mentioned that the Scenic rail excursions are included, as well as all of the rail travel. There is a Scenic cruise too. When you board the ship, we will do an illumination tour of Budapest at night. We also have a lake cruise on Lake Achensee before we board in Austria. There are local cultural experiences included, including a performance by a Hungarian folk band in Budapest and a private onboard performance by Vienna's Philharmonic Orchestra. And there's also a gala dinner. A gala dinner is standard on the cruises where your guests, your group would have an opportunity to gather together. These are the types of experiences that make group travel even more fun because you get to spend some more time together, but then also share in the experiences you've had and meet new friends. There's Budapest sightseeing, a Bratislava motor coach tour, sightseeing in Vienna, and a Wachau Valley visit, including a trip to Melk Abbey, which overlooks the Danube River. Here's a nice pictorial as well of some of the tour elements. The Glacier Express is pictured here top left. I know I'm going back and forth a little bit, but during the escorted tour portion of this itinerary, we do include a trip to some vineyards in Switzerland and a wine tasting. So that's representative here of the picture on the upper right. In the middle is a picture of the Zillertalben Railway, and this is just another unique experience that we've included. It's an included sightseeing trip in Austria where you take this train up through shimmering meadows, valleys, and under mountains, again, bringing guests a different perspective on the land and the landscape that we're traveling through. The bottom left is Budapest, the middle is Vienna, and of course here on the bottom right is Melk Abbey. So that concludes the overview of the Glacier Express and Danube River Cruise. Perhaps your travelers and your group has experienced some of those sites before. Maybe you'd like to take in a couple different destinations. So I thought I'd focus on the Imperial Cities and Danube cruise. On the Imperial Cities and Danube cruise, your group would experience an imperial adventure by exploring multifaceted histories of two European giants, and that is Berlin and Prague, before they would board the same Danube cruise. So it's an escorted tour, including Berlin and Prague, before they would board their Amadeus River vessel and take the same Danube experience we just walked through. This particular itinerary is 11 days. It begins with arrival in Berlin. Your group will meet the tour manager at their Berlin hotel, get acquainted with other travelers over a welcome dinner. They'll spend one night in Berlin, and then the group will do city touring before boarding the train to travel to Prague. In Prague, they'll spend 2 nights. We'll do group touring, and then they'll also have time at leisure. And I wanted to take a minute here to pause too and just share with you that I think when you look at tours, it's important, especially escorted tours for groups, to have elements both of included sightseeing, but also free time. You can't underestimate the interest of travelers in enjoying some things and having the opportunity to do some things on their own. So in packages like these, we have included, and it's a nice balance, some free time for them to go out and explore on their own. So we'll do a 2-day, or excuse me, a guided tour of Berlin, some free time in Berlin, and then the group will board the train and travel to Budapest. And as you see, the river cruise itself is the same itinerary. So we'll travel to Bratislava, Vienna, they'll do the trip to Melk Abbey. There's an option to go to Salzburg, and the trip concludes in Passau with flights home from Munich. This is an 11-day experience. It includes 3 nights hotel accommodations, 7 nights on the ship, a tour manager, and 26 meals. Some of the highlights would include the guided tours of Berlin and Prague, including Prague Castle and St. Vitus Cathedral. We'll travel like locals on local networks connecting these cities. We'll include touring in Budapest, Bratislava, Vienna, Melk Abbey, and the terraced vineyards that overlook the Danube and Regensburg. And then I mentioned the cultural experiences as well, the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra performance and the Hungarian folklore show. So it's really a nice trip, a 3-night escorted tour before boarding the ship for the 7-night rail sailing. I don't know that I mentioned it at the onset, but these vacations are available in reverse itinerary as well. So you'll see them on our website presented this way, but there are opportunities to take the trips in reverse. This is a good pictorial summary of the tour with highlights from left to right. Top is Bratislava, or excuse me, left top is Bratislava, right top is Vienna. The middle right is the Danube Bend. We'll sail through the Danube Bend. It's a sharp curve in the river, very picturesque and scenic. The bottom left is Budapest. The middle is Berlin, and then of course the Charles Bridge in Prague on the bottom right. So we've explored 2 itineraries, including travel on the Danube River, and at this point we'd like to ask another question.
All right, it is time for our second polling question, and let's go ahead and launch it. It is, when will you plan 2023 group travel? So there are 4 options on your screen. I've already planned for 2023 in spring, in summer, and in the fall or winter. So go ahead and let us know your thoughts. We'll keep this open for about another 15 seconds or so. All right, it looks like everyone has had a chance to participate. And Julie, this is so interesting. A quarter of our attendees say they've already planned, a quarter say in the spring, a quarter in the summer, and a quarter in the fall and winter. So that is so perfect.
It's well balanced. I like things well
Very.
balanced. Thanks, Lynn. Okay. Well, that's wonderful. With longer tours, I'm sure you've all experienced that typically the time to plan is typically further in advance, just to allow your guests an opportunity um, to perhaps save or just put it in their calendar and plan for that. So um, that's great. Thanks so much. So let's dive into the next itinerary and tour. We're going to travel on a different river now. We've spent some time on the Danube. Let's dive into the Rhine River. The Rhine River begins in Switzerland. It flows about 800 miles through Germany and the Netherlands to the North Sea. Along the way, it passes historic cities and storybook towns, the largest being Cologne, which we will visit on this tour, as well as Dusseldorf, Strasbourg, and Basel. We'll experience some of the Rhine's most spectacular sights with this next rail and river cruise journey, which is called the Jungfrau and 5-star Rhine cruise. So, are you ready to venture to the top of Europe? I think it sounds exciting, and that's exactly what your group would be doing if they took this trip. Before they set sail on the magical waters of the Rhine, your group would travel on the Jungfrau Railroad to Jungfrau Joch, which is the continent's highest railroad station. It's a scenic rail experience, something not to be missed, and it's an incredible way for your group to experience the majesty of the Swiss Alps. So like I said earlier, these rail experiences are really fascinating and fun because they do give you a different perspective on the places that you're visiting, take you up into places that are really not easily accessible by other methods of transportation. It's an 11-day escorted tour. It includes 11-day escorted tour. It includes rail and river cruising, 3 nights hotel accommodations, 7 nights on board an Amadeus ship. In this instance, it would be the Silver III or the Imperial. The tour begins in London, just as it did on that very first one, the Glacier Express in Danube, with travel on the Eurostar to Strasbourg. We'd actually stop in Paris, pick up a different train, and then travel to Strasbourg. So Paris is that point. If your travelers would prefer, you could fly into and meet the group, board the train, and travel to Strasbourg for the first night. The second day is a morning at leisure in Strasbourg, and then they'll travel by train to Interlaken, Switzerland for an overnight. On day 3 is when the group boards the Jungfrau Railway, and we'll talk more about that here in the next slide. On day 4, they'll travel by rail from Interlaken to Basel and board the ship and enjoy a delicious Swiss-themed meal before setting sail. There are some options on these river cruises. All of the touring is included, but there are a handful of times where we'll present an option to your travelers. In Strasbourg, the current option would be for a city tour or for your guests to travel through the Black Forest. On day 6, we'll visit Speyer and Heidelberg. On day 7, we'll visit the Rudesheim, famous for its Riesling wine production. We'll have some free time there and travel the Rhine Gorge, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. We'll overnight on the ship in Koblenz, and then we'll get off the ship to experience a unique rail experience. We'll do a Cologne walking tour, and this tour concludes in Amsterdam. And here too, we'll present options to travelers. They can do a city tour of Amsterdam, or if they'd like to continue and do a unique steam train excursion, we've got that for them as well. And the tour concludes in Amsterdam, a choice of either flying out of Amsterdam or continuing by rail to London. 26 meals are included, as well as the tour escort and local guides. Not sure if I mentioned it, but on many of these tours, we do include local guides as well as the tour manager. This is the Jungfrau Railway. It's one of the tour highlights for sure. It climbs over 3,400 meters above sea level to the summit of Jungfrau Joch Mountain, which offers spectacular views of the surrounding Swiss Alps and the glaciers and more. It's the same route that guests have been traveling over for more than 100 years, and it takes travelers through the Eiger Tunnel and concludes upon arrival at Jungfrau Joch, top of Europe station, which is the continent's highest railway station. I'd like to take a moment at this point to share with you something that I find to be an excellent resource. What you're looking at right now is a picture that I took from our website. If you go to our homepage and scroll to the bottom, there is a section titled Expert Advice and Inspiration. I draw your attention to it because if you're interested in learning more about these destinations, the rail journeys and the trains themselves, there are a lot of resources here that you can look at. We have podcasts, articles, as well as webinars. In fact, I listened to a podcast on the Jungfrau Railway and the Jungfrau region itself recently and found it to be very interesting and helpful. So it's great if you'd like to use it. Please, it could help build interest in a tour that you're planning for your group, and also just as a form of education. Again, you would find that by visiting us on our website, vacationsbyrail.com. Scroll to the bottom of the homepage and click on the link that says Expert Advice and Inspiration. When we looked at the MS Amadeus Queen, I did mention that that ship was reflective of the fleet. I think that what you'll find here in looking at a picture of the Amadeus Silver III is it does look pretty similar from a distance. As a reminder, the ship has similar onboard amenities, including the restaurant, which serves international and domestic food, a panoramic bar that has specially designed windows, a fitness suite, a hair salon, the sun deck. Here's a nice pictorial view of the MS Amadeus Silver III. Different decor, the ship has its own personality, but similar. Upper left would be one of the rooms. This large picture on the right is the lounge, and the restaurant is the bottom left with a picture of the comfortable ensuite bathroom in the middle. A reminder, the deluxe staterooms have the panoramic window balcony. The deluxe suites have the walkout exterior balcony. And the classic staterooms have the wide picture window. Along the river, your group will enjoy numerous cities. I mentioned in the last itinerary that there are some, or excuse me, on this one, that there are some options. So in Strasbourg, there's an option of a city tour or an excursion to the Black Forest. And in Amsterdam, there's a choice for a city tour of Amsterdam or an excursion on the Medemblik steam train, which is a nostalgic trip by train through Dutch scenery. There are lots of inclusions. We'll stop in Speyer, Heidelberg, Rudesheim. We'll cruise the Rhine Gorge. Oftentimes on ship, commentary will be delivered by the cruise manager. That would take place in the lounge. There's a Cologne walking tour. There's an excursion on the Drachenfels Railway. You'll have to excuse me, I took Italian and my German is not great. But I'll talk about that train trip here in a moment, and then a gala dinner on board. On day 8, this is when your group travelers would disembark the ship and experience the Cog Railway. It's actually now an electric railway. It dates back to the late 1800s, though, and it was actually steam-powered back at that time. Travel on this train takes them up to the top of Drachenfels Mountain, and along the way, they'll pass a villa, which was actually thought to have inspired Disney's Sleeping Beauty. So again, just another way that we've woven heritage and scenic railway excursions into the river cruise as well as into the escorted tour portions of these experiences to give travelers some neat and unique experiences. A pictorial summary of the tour from left to right would include Strasbourg, France, Cologne, Germany, Amsterdam there on the middle right. The lower left is Heidelberg, Interlaken in the center, and then this is a picture of the Rhine Gorge. We would sail through the Rhine Gorge on our Amadeus River vessel, and this is a World Heritage Site because of its geological, historical, cultural, and industrial reasons. That concludes the overview of the Jungfrau Railway and 5-star Rhine cruise. Now, I know I've given you a lot of rail and a lot of river at this point, but maybe you're saying to yourself, gosh, I really liked the Glacier Express, and I might like to do that in combination with the Rhine. Well, we can do that. In fact, we do have an itinerary. We won't go through it in detail, but I thought it was certainly worth mentioning. There are other itineraries available, packaged similarly. One that would meet the needs would be the Glacier Express and Rhine cruise. This is a 12-day rail and river cruise. It includes the Glacier Express, but in addition to it, it also includes a trip on the Gornergrat Mountain Railway, which is just another wonderful mountain railway experience. It's the highest open-air railway in Europe and also the first electric cog railway globally, and that train begins in Zermatt Village. So you'd get a little bit more in-depth, maybe rail experience in the Swiss Alps on this itinerary. You can view it on our website at vacationsbyrail.com. And again, the 2023 dates and rates are online. My goal today really was to highlight from a high level how these tours operate, the types of inclusions they have, and why they would appeal to group travelers. In the event that your group has river cruised, but they haven't done a rail tour in Europe, this might be a really excellent way to introduce them to escorted rail touring in Europe, of which we have numerous itineraries. It could be the launching point for maybe a fully Swiss escorted tour, or even a tour in Scotland. Or maybe your group has done escorted touring in Europe and they're comfortable with that, but they haven't done a river cruise. Well, here too, that could be a great launch. This could be a great launching point for them to experience and learn more about river cruising. In summary, some of the reasons I feel this is a great fit for groups is because it's similar to an escorted tour. It is an escorted tour at the front end. We have a tour manager and local guides. We are rail specialists, so we've included a variety of different rail experiences on both scenic, high-speed, and local rail networks, along with those heritage railways. We include comfortable hotel accommodations. You're traveling on luxury river vessels. A lot of groups prefer to be in just a couple of locations, not having to pack and unpack multiple times, so the ship definitely takes care of that for you. A lot of the meals are included, but there's still some meals that are not including, allowing your travelers the opportunity to go out and try some things on their own. The shore excursions are included at every port of call. We do provide onboard entertainment, and the port taxes are also included. I'm excited to share with you that we do have a group special for 2023 on select Rhine and Danube River cruises. The 10th traveler in your group would be free, and group space is now available. So I can actually, if you're interested and you'd like to promote one of these to your group, I can hold space for you on an itinerary. And in the event that your group has 10 or more travelers, traveler number 10 would be complimentary. And at this point, we have another question.
Yes, we do. It is our last polling question, and let's go ahead and launch that. It is, what destinations are of interest to your group for future travel? So there are 5 different options available on your screen. So please select the one that is most representative of your group's interest. We have fall foliage in the US, national parks in the US, Canada, UK and Europe, and rail and river cruising. So we'll leave this open for another 15 seconds or so to give everyone a chance to participate. All right, it looks like everyone has selected an option, so I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. And Jolie, 50% of today's attendees have said rail and river cruising is of interest for their next group. And we have U.S. National Parks in Canada represented as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's great. Thanks so much, Lynn, and very helpful too. Just to reiterate, I'm the group specialist here at Vacations by Rail, so I would be your contact if you're interested in exploring those with me. I would be delighted to do that. The next slide is additional resources that are available to you to help you plan your group travel. The left picture is our brochure. It's certainly not a comprehensive collection of everything that we have to offer, but it is a wonderful book that includes our best-selling itinerary. So in there, you'll find USA National Park tours, Canada tours, the rail and river cruising, as well as fall foliage and the UK and Europe. So if you're interested in receiving a brochure, the next slide has my contact information. Just reach out to me. I'll make sure we get one out to you in the mail. In the middle is our European Rail and River Cruise Adventures brochure. This includes several of the rail and river cruise itineraries, including the ones that we talked about here today. There's also some barging experiences in Europe, and then we've also just picked out just a couple of some of our most popular escorted rail tours in the UK and Europe. And right now, Scotland is very popular for group travel, as well as Switzerland. So I think there's 2 Switzerland tours inside there. If you're interested in that, just send me an email or give me a call and I'd be happy to make sure that you get a copy. For the folks that are interested in the USA National Parks, Canada, and the rail and river cruising options, take a look at our website. If you go to the homepage, I'd recommend you scroll again to the bottom. There's a link. It's titled Group Travel. Click on that link and you'll be brought up to the group travel page. There are numerous tours there by tab. So I've actually identified some recommended group tours by category, and you'll see some of our most popular USA National Park tours. You'll see some of the most popular Canada tours, and then the rail and river cruising itineraries that we discussed today. So it's a great resource. Our website has a lot of information. I would look forward to partnering with you, to sharing more information, to answering any questions that you have. You can reach out to me at groups@vacationsbyrail.com. My phone number is here as well. Please feel free to give me a call. If you're interested in learning about these itineraries or any other type of group travel by rail or with rail, I'm your contact here at the company. And I think now we have an opportunity for some questions.
We do. So let's go ahead and get started with those. The first question we have, this is a great one. Is there required attire during cruising and or gala dinners?
So that is a good question. There are no requirements for attire. We do recommend, and this is true with the river cruises as well as escorted touring just in general, casual attire and comfortable walking shoes. Guests, of course, if they'd like to dress up for the gala dinner, they're welcome to, but there's no specific dress code that they would have to adhere to.
Okay, great. Can you tell me a little bit more about excursions? Are they included?
Yeah, so on the rail and river cruise specifically, those excursions and at every port of call are included in the price of the package. And just to give a little bit more information on how those operate, we try to use trains. However, sometimes it's not possible. So it's possible that it could be a walking tour, it could be a motor coach tour, we could be taking a boat. I mentioned in one of the tours we do a cruise on Lake Akensee. When we do board a motor coach, we try and keep the journeys to a maximum of about 2 hours. And while we have the tour manager with the group, we also try and include a local guide when we can. So they're really nice experiences.
Great. How many people sit at a table during dinner on a cruise ship?
That's another great question. So the ships themselves have a variety of different table sizes, and usually about 4 to 8 people sit together. There are no assigned seats on the cruises. Travelers are free to sit where they would like. And there is another common question. There's just one seating. So it's one seating for each meal.
Okay, great. Are alcoholic beverages included on board the river cruise ship?
Alcoholic beverages, beer and wine are included with dinner. And like I said, the wine would be reflective of the region that we're traveling through. And then wine and beer and alcoholic beverages are available at other times, but they are included during dinner.
Okay, great. And keeping with the theme of food and drinks, we have a question about dietary needs. Can they be accommodated?
Yeah, the best thing always on an escorted tour with Vacations by Rail or Rail and River Cruise would be to make those requests early. I always recommend doing that at the time of reservation, and then you would need to wait to have that confirmed, but it would certainly be noted in the reservation. And the earlier that we can know about any type of request, the better our opportunity to accommodate.
Okay, great. Oh, this is a good question. Will I have cell phone reception or internet access?
It's so important. um, and this goes for, I think, this type of tour as well as, just rail travel and touring in general. Cell phone reception, it may not be reliable. You have to consider where you're traveling to. Up in the mountains and even in the United States here in the national parks. I think personally that's part of the beauty of travel is being able to disconnect. So I'm okay with that, but it is certainly important to know. The other, I guess, on the flip side to that, the thing that's important to know about the vessels themselves is that they're all outfitted with Wi-Fi, so you would have internet access.
Okay, great. Um, what class of travel is included on the Glacier Express?
So that's a great question. And on the train journeys, several of them would have different options available. It's best to ask at the time that we're booking your group about what's available and what's included, because with the Glacier Express specifically, the class of service would depend on the leg of the journey that the group is taking. So, for example, on the Rhine cruise, travelers could select either first class or standard class. Um, and on the Danube cruise, because it's a different segment that we include on that Glacier Express and Danube cruise, everybody would be traveling in standard class. So I'd say if you have a specific request for some type of rail service level, to just ask me about what might be available and how we can make it work best for your group.
Thanks, Jolie. We have a question here. Is luggage handling included?
So that's another great question. So on this itinerary and these tours, the rail and river cruising, the luggage and portage service is not included. We will provide information on the size of the luggage that we recommend from a dimensional perspective as well as a weight perspective. And you'll see that, those escorted tours that I talked about at the beginning of the river cruise, they are travel by rail. So it's unlike some of the escorted tours that we have here in the United States, where you're traveling on a motor coach, where the luggage service and luggage travel would be, put into the coach for you and part of the experience. But in this particular instance, the porterage is not included. And that's the kind of question too that I'd suggest if you'd like to learn more about, or you want to be specific about making sure that's mentioned to your travelers, just talk with me at the time we're booking your group.
All right, great. We have a few more questions. What is not included in the tour price?
One of one of the biggest things, and I guess the one that I do get the most questions about, is gratuities. So the gratuities are not included. We do we suggest that gratuity be handled at traveler discretion, and do provide recommendations in the final documents. Baggage handling, excess baggage fees, any type of fees or items of a personal nature, anything that is not included in the itinerary description, incidental charges, things like that are not included in the price of the tour.
Okay, great. How many travelers are a group in general?
So I think groups can be large and they can be small, and that's what's so wonderful about group travel. But the way that I look at it is that the minimum that I look for to hold group space for promotional purposes would be 10. So if your expectation is your group would be 10 or larger, at that point we can go ahead and hold space on one of these rail and river cruises or one of our escorted tours so that you can promote it and get the word out.
Okay. Um,
If I could just add on to that too, Lynn, it's important
yeah.
to know that the number of travelers on our escorted tours varies. So there are some tours that go out with over 40 travelers, and there are some tours that go out with about 25 travelers. It varies by destination, it varies by tour. So that's another thing that we can talk about based on the tour a group is interested in at the
Mhm.
time that they'd like to hold space.
Great. Um, how active will my group be on vacation?
Well, one of the beauties or beautiful things about a rail and river cruise is that um, a lot of it is at the traveler's discretion, especially when they're on board the vessel, whether or not they want to disembark and experience those included sightseeing tours or not. But the pace of the vacation and the level of physical activity varies by the itinerary and the activities that guests choose to participate in. It is important to know that while you're on a river cruise and an escorted tour or just traveling in Europe in general, um, there may be extensive walking. You may be climbing stairs. Guests may be on hills, uneven terrain, cobblestone streets. And we do ask that travelers and group leaders let us know and disclose to us an accurate account of their mobility, as well as any other type of relevant information that would pertain to their health and fitness, both at the time that a reservation is made and then if any changes are made until the time of departure.
Okay, great. We have time for a couple more. Um, what is the deposit to hold or to make a reservation?
Sure. So just to clarify, there is no deposit or fee in order to hold space on a tour. The time at which a deposit would be required is when travelers make their reservation, and so that deposit is $500 per person, and it's required in order to confirm a traveler reservation on the tour. That deposit is non-refundable, and the full payment then would be due 90 days prior to travel.
Okay, great. And when do travelers receive their documents?
So for these experiences, about 2 weeks prior to departure.
All right, great. Well, we're running short on time, so I know that we do have some questions that are waiting for answers. Jolie, you're going to get those, and I know you'll respond to all of our participants waiting for an answer. So thank you for attending. I think it is time that we say goodbye. So I'm going to turn this over to Jolie for some last words.
Excellent. I just wanted to close by again expressing my gratitude to you for taking time out of your day to learn more about vacations by rail and river cruising, as well as the joy, like I said, the joy of group travel with us. And I would really look forward to an opportunity to helping you experience some of the things that we talked about today. So please feel free to reach out to me. And thanks again.
Thanks so much.